What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to another Heart Over Height episode. Today, we're going to be grading every NBA team's trade deadline acquisitions, their moves, that whole 9 yards. So if you do enjoy this video, do me a huge favor, smash the like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel, comment down below on who your biggest winner was and who your biggest loser was. So without further ado, let's get right on into this. So to start off, we're just going to go top to bottom in alphabetical order. So skip ahead as you feel. Wizards towards the back. Atlanta Hawks are going to be our first team up. The Atlanta Hawks, they're incoming players they traded for or signed or all that whole 9 yards. Caris LeVert, Georges Niang, Terrence Mann, Bones Hyland, a 2026 first-round pick swap, and a 2028 first-round pick swap. What they gave up: DeAndre Hunter, Bogdan Bogdanovic, Cody Zeller, and then 4 second-round picks, 2025 to 2028. Right? So what I'm going to say is this is a solid C+. I don't love the idea. I think this grade would be higher had they not given up DeAndre Hunter. Right? I'm totally cool with them getting rid of Bogdanovic. I think that he should have been on the way out, that whole 9 yards. Cody Zeller was fine throw in, and 4 second-round picks. Now, you did get Caris LeVert and a couple swaps. Caris LeVert will take some pressure off of Trae Young. Right? Georges Niang's been having a solid season as well. Terrence Mann, solid player as well. You're building a solid rotation there. The question is defense. Trae Young is he's improved his defense throughout his career, but he's still not a super plus defender. So you have to put guys like DeAndre Hunter around him, especially when DeAndre Hunter's been playing as well as he has. Now, maybe Atlanta saw Hunter's play and they decided to sell high on him, and he's not going to play that well throughout the entire season. We don't know. I guess we'll see after All-Star break. But what I do know is that DeAndre Hunter is a solid defensive player, regardless whether he's having a good offensive impact. So for the Cavs themselves, I like this deal because they go and get a defender that doesn't necessarily need to score, that can score in those little bunches when needed. But as far as the Atlanta Hawks, I think a solid C+ because you go get some offensive talent to take that pressure off of Trae Young. Next up, the Boston Celtics. There are some teams here that are going to be right in the middle of the pack. A C grade, which is exactly what the Celtics are getting, is some team that didn't really make a whole lot of moves, nothing super significant for the roster, right? Jaden Springer and 2 second-round picks were sent out in exchange for 1 second-round pick. This roster wasn't really going to be touched. We knew that going into the trade deadline. They're a team that they're solid. They're rock solid. They're looking to just continue, run it back the same as they did last year because they just came off of a finals win. So I can't blame this team per se for making a huge deal because they just won a championship. So C grade right in the middle. Next up, the Brooklyn Nets. I'm going to give them an F. I think the Brooklyn Nets should have gone out and done more. They're a team that they had Cam Johnson sitting there that was an enticing piece that a lot of teams were interested in. I think they could have had a bidding war. And I think that they tried to sell way too high on him. Right? The Lakers were sitting there with Dalton Connect and a first-round pick. That's a solid return for someone like Cam Johnson. And they probably would have loved a guy like Cam Johnson. Now, of course, they need a center, but we'll get into the Lakers here soon. They had Nicholas Claxton sitting there as well. They had Cam Thomas sitting there as well. D'Angelo Russell sitting there as well. You had solid veteran players that you could have packaged and gotten rid of because you're looking to lose games and hopefully get a guy like Cooper Flagg, Ace Bailey over on this roster. So for that sense, you should have been on a fire sale. So for those reasons, because they didn't make deals, they're getting an F. You got rid of Dorian Finney-Smith and Dennis Schroeder earlier in the year, but you picked up D'Angelo Russell in that process, and then you still didn't get rid of your high-value camaraderie right there. Hot commodity, that's what I was trying to say, in Cam Johnson. A lot of teams were interested in him, and you didn't give him up at all. So for that reason, an F. Charlotte Hornets, I think this grade would have been a lot higher, but we got the breaking news that Dalton Connect and that 2031 first-round pick is going back to the Lakers because Mark Williams failed his physical. So with that, they got Yusuf Nurkic, a 2026 first-round pick, a 2030 swap, which I think goes back as well because that's with LA. So yeah, so Yusuf Nurkic, 2026 first round pick, least favorable of Phoenix, Washington, Orlando, Memphis, and then a 2029 second round pick via it's Phoenix's pick via Oklahoma City. Outgoing, Cody Martin, Micic, 2026 second round pick, and a 2030 second round pick. So yeah, I think that's a solid grade. I think getting that first round pick from least favorable from Phoenix, Washington, Orlando, Memphis, probably going to be right around that Memphis area because it's least favorable. But still, a first round pick is a first round pick. When you have a super bad draft, typically it's followed, not super bad, but when you have an okay draft, it's typically followed by a really solid draft, being this one. I think there's a lot of talented college athletes that are going to fall in this draft class. So for a team like Charlotte that's just looking to acquire young talent, pretty solid haul, right? Yusuf Nurkic was a contract you needed to absorb, and he might actually be able to provide some serviceable center minutes for you, especially with Mark Williams' injury history. So I'm going to give this grade a solid B. I think it could have been better. It probably would have been around an A to A plus if you had gotten Dalton Knecht and that first round pick. But you didn't, so it does drop. Next up, Chicago Bulls. Incoming, Zach Collins, Trey Jones, Kevin Huerter, and a 2025 first-round pick, which is their own first-round pick back from San Antonio as part of that De'Aaron Fox deal. Outgoing, Zach LaVine and a 2025 second-round pick. Yeah, I think that this grade is probably going to be a D plus C minus, somewhere in that area. I think getting your own first-round pick back is what keeps it at C minus, is what I'll set it at, because you got your own first-round pick, so now you can officially tank. But you gave up Zach LaVine, and you didn't find a home for Nikola Vucevic. Whether that was asking too much for him or not finding the right deal, nobody wanting to make that trade, it's tough, of course. But you didn't. It's similar to Brooklyn. You didn't find the deal for him. You found the deal for DeRozan in the summer. You found the deal for Zach LaVine, but you couldn't find the deal for the last piece. I also think that they're a team, and what drags their grade down a little bit was they're a team that could have gone on a complete fire sale. They extended Lonzo Ball to a 2-year, $20 million deal. I actually really like that contract. It's really cheap, really solid deal for them. So I like that part, so that could theoretically bring their grade up. Bringing it down, though, is not finding a deal for someone like Kobe White. You have like 9 guards on this roster now. And then Vucevic. Patrick Williams, which is overpaid. There are some flawed moves here that could have been dealt at the deadline. So for those reasons, C minus is what the final grade is going to be. The Cleveland Cavaliers. Incoming, DeAndre Hunter. Outgoing, Karis LeVert, Georges Niang, 2026 first-round pick swap, 2028 first-round pick swap, and 3 second-round picks. I think this grade's a solid A minus. This deal here, they get DeAndre Hunter, which, like I said before, he's having a great season, both offensively and defensively. We don't know if that offense is going to stick because in the past, it hasn't. But what I will say is he doesn't need to necessarily score because he's what? The 4th, 5th option on this roster. You've Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell being your main bucket getters. Now, of course, another bucket getter was given up in Karis LeVert. Georges Niang was also given up in this deal, which he's having a solid season. But the bright spot is you only give up swaps. You didn't give up any legitimate picks. So you're still going to have a first-round pick in next year's draft and in 2028, right? So I like that a lot for them. Yeah, I also think that we have said that wings win championships. You can never have too many wings, right? The Celtics they just signed Torrey Craig, adding him to the depth kind of thing. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Derek White, like wing is how these teams are winning. That was the issue with Dallas not being able to compete against Boston, was the fact that they couldn't defend the wings. They only had one solid defender, being Derrick Jones Jr., that could defend the wings. So Cleveland says, hey, we have a bit of a hole there. Why don't we go get this guy that's balling? We give up Karis LeVert, which we don't need we don't need a ball dominant scorer, so he can go hang out with Trae Young in Atlanta, and we'll get this defensive caliber player that can play defense against Jason Tatum and or Jaylen Brown. So I like that deal for them. I think a solid A minus grade. The Dallas Mavericks. This one is such a confusing one, of course, because you give up Luka Doncic. right? You gave up Luka, Maxi Kleber, Markieff Morris, Quentin Grimes, and 2 second-round picks. In exchange, you get Anthony Davis, Max Christie, Caleb Martin, and a 2029 first-round pick. This one, I'm going to give this a D+ grade. The reason that it's not a complete F is because this season and next season, the Mavericks actually have a solid roster. Is it a championship contending team? I don't know. That's the biggest question mark, because Kyrie Irving, he is, I don't know if he can be that full-on 1A on a championship contending team. This season's going to prove it a lot. But the team right now is designed to win. You've got Kyrie, Max Christie, Klay Thompson. You've got PJ Washington. You have Derek Lively, Daniel Gafford. You've got Caleb Martin now. You got Anthony Davis now. Like, you have a solid 8 to 9 man rotation in this area. And a 2029 first round pick from the Lakers. Because we don't know what the Lakers look like 4 years from now. Luka could be off the roster in 4 years. LeBron probably will be off the roster in 4 years and retired. And you get back Anthony Davis, which 4 years from now, that's the issue. Is this team is built to win now, and hopefully they've got enough. But the problem is you gave up a 25-year-old. You gave up a 25-year-old who has made more All-NBA teams than Steph Curry, one of the greatest point guards to ever play the game. You also gave up a lot. You gave up Maxi Kleber, solid player for the Lakers. Markieff Morris, going to be a end-of-the-bench kind of guy. Quentin Grimes, I thought that was an L of a trade for the Dallas Mavericks, was the Caleb Martin for Quentin Grimes swap. I like Caleb Martin's a lot, but he's not Quentin Grimes. I think Quentin Grimes is a younger, better player. So for those reasons, I think it's a D+. But if they win a championship, I think that does kind of wipe the clean slate right there. But the issue is your future. There is a question mark of a future there. Now they're flipping roles with the Lakers. In the Lakers were having the same issue of like, we're too old, we don't have a future. Let's win now. Now the Mavericks are doing the same thing. Kyrie being 32, Anthony Davis 32, Klay is like 33 or something like that. You have older talent on this roster, and they're your stars, so they're not going to last a long time. Next up here, we have the Denver Nuggets. Didn't make a single move. For that reason, I think it's a D. I think that you could have gone and looked at Michael Porter Jr. moves. I think that with all these other teams making these big deals, the Luka deal, the Anthony Davis deal, etc., right? You could have De'Aaron Fox to the Spurs. All these teams are trying to get better, and you didn't. And you're already not, like, the roster isn't great, let's be honest. Yes, you have Jokic, and you have Porter, and you have Westbrook, and you have Jamal Murray. But depth is an issue for this roster. You're bringing Aaron Gordon off the bench, which is solid because Russell Westbrook has been able to fill that dunker spot. But I question when they match up against Oklahoma City, when they match up against even like Houston. I think Houston is too young. I don't think they have enough to really make a deep playoff run, but they're still a good team. So yeah, for those reasons, I do see that as a D grade, just because you didn't make a deal. You didn't improve your roster when it seems like a lot of rosters around you did improve. I mean, the Lakers are a 5th seed right now, and they went out and got one of the best players on the planet. Next up here, we have the Detroit Pistons. Outgoing, just a 2028 second round pick. Incoming, KJ Martin, Lindy Waters III, Josh Richardson, Dennis Schroeder, and 2 second round picks. I think that this is a solid grade. B+, A-. I mean, you gave up a second round pick. KJ Martin, Josh Richardson, Lindy Waters, Dennis Schroeder, like, those are all players that, like, can be serviceable for you. Right? KJ Martin, like, he never really blew up to what we thought he could really be, but still serviceable player coming off your bench. Same thing with Josh Richardson and Dennis Schroeder. I think that those guys will be solid players to come off your bench and can help Cade Cunningham reduce the amount of turnovers that he does commit, because Dennis Schroeder is a good point guard. Bringing in that veteranship, somebody that has been in deep playoff runs before, is something that could benefit Cade Cunningham. This team is on a roll. So to get all this in return, you turn 1 second-round pick into 2 second-round picks and 4 players. I think that could be solid. There's probably going to be a player or two here that's going to be waived, making some roster clearance, all that. But I think that that's pretty solid. Jaden Ivey, of course, out for the season with the injury. You bring in Dennis Schroeder as a serviceable backup for you. Next up here, we have the Golden State Warriors. Outgoing, Andrew Wiggins, Dennis Schroeder, Kyle Anderson, Lindy Waters III, a 2025 first-round pick, top 10 protected. Incoming, Jimmy Butler. I like this deal a lot. You extend him to a 2-year, $111 million deal. I know a lot of people are questioning the move because, of course, Jimmy Butler is a bit of a head case. But the thing is Steph Curry is the complete opposite. He's not a head case. I think that is just like, that's how he and Draymond work so well, is Draymond is the hot-headed player and Steph Curry is the calm before the storm. I think he can help out Jimmy a lot, and I think that together they can win games. And I also think it was a move you kind of had to make. You didn't give up Kuminga. You didn't give up Moses Moody. You didn't give up Pods. You gave up a pick that was top 10 protected, right? So even if you do happen to fall out of the play-in or something like that, or find your way in the play-in and you fall out, you have a chance to where your pick still sticks with you. So I think that's solid. Jimmy Butler is a great player. Let's not forget this dude dragged the Heat to 2 finals. And now he's got less pressure on him to perform because he'll have one of the best point guards on the planet in Steph Curry. So keep that in mind with this deal. I think Jimmy Butler is a solid player to put alongside Steph Curry. Next up here, we have the Houston Rockets. They are getting Jaden Springer, Cody Zeller, and 2 second-round picks, outgoing a 2031 second-round pick. Yeah, this grade, I think it's a solid flat C-. This, I was expecting a little more. I think you had Fred VanVleet's contract sitting there that could have been utilized to go get a star. You should have gone and talked to Phoenix, especially a team that was looking to literally get rid of Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant is a very good plug-and-play player, so I don't think it would have taken him long to gel well with these younger guys. You had young guys to expend anyways. Jalen Green to expend. You had Jabari Smith to expend. Somebody like that. There was only one untouchable player on this roster, and that was Amen Thompson. No way they were giving him up. But to pair Amen and Kevin Durant together would have been solid. So I think that's why this grade is dragged down, because there were moves out there to go improve your roster, and you just didn't choose to go do those. Similar to the, like I was talking about with the Denver Nuggets. The Denver Nuggets didn't go make moves. That drags your grade down, especially when everyone else is getting better. Next up here, the Indiana Pacers. Second round pick is incoming, and they give up James Wiseman. Another little disappointing team. I think D+. D+ grade. You could have gotten better. You probably should have gone out and gotten better, because the East is sitting there. You're not a top team in the East. You're not a top 4, top 3 team in the East where you're going to be competing with, a Boston, Cleveland, New York in a 7-game series. You just don't have the star power there. You had expendable players where you could have done a 2-for-1. And Aaron Nesmith was a very tradable piece here for you. Isaiah Jackson, very tradable piece there for you. And you just chose to sit on it. And you give up James Wiseman to get a second-round pick, top 55 protected. Like, what even is that? You just gave away James Wiseman then. Next up here, the Los Angeles Clippers. Incoming, Drew Eubanks, Patty Mills, Bogdan Bogdanovic, and 3 second-round picks for PJ Tucker, Mo Bamba, Terrence Mann, Bones Highland, and a 2030 second-round pick. Yeah, I like this deal. They also brought in Ben Simmons off of waivers. This, I think, brings their grade up A-. You bring up a serviceable backup center. Patty Mills, good player off your bench. Bogdanovic, going to be a good player off your bench. And then you have Ben Simmons as well sitting there who can play off your bench, or he can even start for you. Yes, you lost out on Terrence Mann, but you got rid of PJ Tucker, who wasn't playing for you anyways. Mo Bamba wasn't doing anything for you. Bones Highland wasn't doing anything for you. And a second round pick. I like this deal a lot for them. James Harden, you've got James Harden, Bogdanovich here. You've got Kawhi here. Some serviceable pieces. Zubac here. Like, you're making Derrick Jones Jr. still on this roster. There's a lot of like interesting pieces. Are they championship contending? I don't think so. I think that they're still a little bit away. We have to see Kawhi Leonard showcase Kawhi Leonard things, and he just hasn't been doing that. He's not staying on the court, staying healthy. The Los Angeles Lakers are next. Incoming, Luka, and that's it, because the Mark Williams, Maxi Kleber, Markieff Morris got flipped. Outgoing, Anthony Davis, Max Christie, Jalen Hood-Schifino, 2029 first-round pick. So, overall, I think that this is a win of a deal. I would have given up Anthony Davis, Jalen Hood-Schifino, Max Christie, and that first-round pick every day of the week for Luka. You just flipped the script like I was talking about with the Mavericks. You went and got younger. The issues about conditioning with Luka are going to be solved because he'll be with LeBron, the greatest conditioned athlete of all time. Right? I mean, seriously, the guy is 40-something years old, and he's in some of the best shape of his life for a 40-year-old. So A+ for them, of course. I'm not going to talk on it too much just because I've talked about them in other videos. The Memphis Grizzlies, incoming, Marvin Bagley III and Johnny Davis. Outgoing, Marcus Smart, Jake LaRavia, and a 2025 first-round pick. Yeah, this isn't a great deal. You were tied to possibly Cam Johnson. You were tied to being in the Jimmy Butler run. Now, of course, Jimmy said he didn't want to play there. But your deal instead, you were supposed to use Marcus Smart's contract to fill in the money to go get a guy like a Jimmy Butler, like a Cam Johnson, like somebody like that, and then you end up getting Marvin Bagley and Johnny Davis, who probably aren't going to play for you. So this roster's already pretty solid, though. They didn't, let's be honest, like Jake LaRavia, they gave up, but they didn't give up too much. They gave up a 2025 first-round pick, but they're going to be solid, so I don't think that they're going to really matter about that first-round pick. All right, next up here, Miami Heat. They receive Andrew Wiggins, Davion Mitchell, 2025 first-round pick, which is from Golden State, top 10 protected. They then give up Jimmy Butler, Josh Richardson, and a second-round pick. To be honest, with all the Heat hoopla and all that we dealt with Jimmy Butler, the return of Andrew Wiggins, Davion Mitchell, and a 2025 first-round pick is solid. I think that's solid. You've got to hope that the Warriors do make the play-in, which I'm assuming that they will, since they'll have Steph Curry, Jimmy Butler. At least they'll make the play-in. But so that way you can get your first overall pick this year. But I think getting Andrew Wiggins fits the timeline of a Tyler Hero, Bam Adebayo. Davion Mitchell is a great defender. He's a little undersized, but as he plays a little bigger than he is, he's a little stockier than he's the mold of Isaiah Thomas, but he can defend. So I like this deal for them. I think a solid B+ grade is pretty fitting for them. Milwaukee Bucks, incoming Kyle Kuzma, Jericho Sims, Kevin Porter Jr., Patrick Baldwin Jr., and a 2025 second-round pick. Outgoing Chris Middleton, AJ Johnson, DeLon Wright, Marjon Beauchamp, and a 2028 first-round pick swap. I'll say that this grade is a C+. Kyle Kuzma, you kind of needed to make some sort of deal, right? Everyone's getting better around you. You also need to try and get better. And this is all you could really do was a Chris Middleton for a Kyle Kuzma-esque player. You weren't going to go get Cam Johnson. You weren't going to be a part of the Kevin Durant sweepstakes, Jimmy Butler sweepstakes. That whole thing was not going to happen. So you say, well, we have 2 stars already. We've got Dame. We've got Giannis. Let's go get somebody that has been with 2 stars before, LeBron and AD, and won a championship with them. So they went and got Kyle Kuzma. Kevin Porter Jr., I think, is an underrated move. He'll be able to provide some serviceable off-the-bench minutes where he can play that Jordan Clarkson, Lou Williams role and just go get buckets. That's what they need. Defense is needed here, so there's a big question mark there. Solid C plus grade, I think. I do have an issue. AJ Johnson, I think, can be a solid player for Washington. I think that he's a 6'5" guard that he's got bounce. So that one, I mean, I don't think he's going to be some phenomenal player or anything like that, but you had to kind of do it in the deal. But I do think that they gave up, for what they got in return, they didn't give up too much, honestly. Let's be honest here. It's a pretty solid return for everything that they gave up. So yeah, C+, I think overall is a pretty solid deal. Next up here, Minnesota Timberwolves. They didn't do a thing. D-. I was hoping that they would find some package for Julius Randle, Dante DiVincenzo. Basically what they got in return for Cat. They made some last-ditch effort to call Phoenix about Kevin Durant. The issue I have with that is you made a last-ditch effort. There was no time to make a deal. The problem here is you need to get better, and you didn't. Clearly, this deal of Julius Randle, DiVincenzo for Cat did not work out. You can admit it, but cut your losses, move on, do your next debacle. Find your next deal. Try and get Anthony Edwards some help. So, yeah, I see that as a D-. They didn't make a move. New Orleans Pelicans. Incoming, Bruce Brown, Kelly Olynyk, a 2026 first-round pick, top 4 protected, and a 2025 second. Outgoing, Daniel Tice, a 2031 second-round pick, and they gave up Brandon Ingram. In this deal, I think that they could have gotten a lot more for Brandon Ingram. I think you get Bruce Brown, Kelly Olynyk, and a first-round pick. I mean, that's not terrible, but you should have sold on him a year ago, right? So I'm going to say C+ deal for them. Yes, you finally get off of Brandon Ingram so you can focus on Herb Jones, Trey Murphy, and let those guys go. I still firmly believe that they could have stayed and gotten rid of Zion and just fully cleared the books and just had hopefully gotten that number 1 overall pick. You pair Cooper Flagg with these other dynamic wings in Herb Jones and Trey Murphy. That's what I was hoping that they would do. But they didn't, which is all good. But I still think that they could have done a little more. New York Knicks are up. They gave up Jericho Sims and they got DeLon Wright. I mean, it's a mediocre deal. It's a C, right? I think it's just like the Celtics, just like those teams that didn't really make deals, right in the middle of the pack. C, we're not going to talk about them too much. Oklahoma City Thunder. Daniel Tice, 2031 second-round pick, 2030 second-round pick is what they got. And then they gave up a 2029 second-round pick and cash. Hey, look, you added some center depth. That's really all you did. So I don't think you necessarily needed to touch this roster. People were tying them in to the Cam Johnson deal. I was concerned with the Cam Johnson going to Oklahoma City with ruining the chemistry that they have. Not saying Cam Johnson would have done that, but you're playing so well as it is. Do you really need to make a move? That's the whole thing behind Cam Johnson going to the Thunder that I was concerned with. So I'm going to say this is a B- deal or their deadline is a B- because they didn't really make a lot of moves. Next up here, Orlando Magic. Yeah, I think that this is an F. I wish they would have done something. You need to take the pressure off of Franz and Paolo. They need offensive scoring bad, especially now that we found out guys like Kevin Porter Jr. were on the market. Karis LeVert was on the market. Cam Johnson was sitting there. You need three-point shooting. You are the 29th ranked offense, and you didn't do anything to improve. So this is an F trade deadline for the Magic. Philly incoming. Quentin Grimes, Jared Butler, and 5 second-round picks in exchange for Caleb Martin, KJ Martin, Reggie Jackson, 2026 first-round pick, and then 3 second-round picks. So, yeah, I don't love this. I mean, Philly, you needed to kind of make some splash move to get better, and you got Quentin Grimes, really. And a bunch of second-round picks. Hopefully they can then take those second round picks and flip them in the offseason. But I've been a firm believer, especially since the Luka deal went down, that, hey, if Dallas can move off of one of the greatest players on the planet, why can't Philly move off of Joel Embiid? That's my whole thing, is like, why can't Philly move off of Paul George? You've got your young star in Tyrese Maxey. He plays, he stays healthy, he's on the court. Jared McCain, yes, he's out for the season. He tore his ACL. He'll be back, but he showed you a lot of bright spots. It might be time to just rebuild. The process of Joel Embiid and something else is not working. It didn't work when they had Ben Simmons, JJ Redick, Jimmy Butler, that whole debacle. It didn't work when you had Tobias Harris on this roster. It didn't work when you had all of this talent around Joel Embiid. He does not play games. He's missed half the games in his career. That should be screaming, we don't want this guy anymore. He is not, like, trusting the process. The process is over. The process has been trusted and it's failed. That's my whole thing behind this, is you did the process, but the process is done. So yeah, I think this is a D- trade deadline for the Philly 76ers. I don't love it. I just don't love it. Next up, Phoenix, F. Now, Bleacher Report has their grade set at a C+. I'm looking at it right now. And all the other trade grades that I've given, like, I will look and see, oh, what's the grade that Bleacher Report gave? And then I'm looking and saying, I don't really agree with that. Phoenix has it set as a C+. But I don't like this trade deadline for them at all. Kevin Durant did not want to get dealt. You just created a disgruntled star. You created another disgruntled star in Bradley Beal because he didn't want to leave. How is it that the Mavericks are able to make deals in silence and no one finds out about it, but Phoenix couldn't do the same exact thing? Right? That's what I'm getting at, is like, Kevin Durant feels disrespected. You're creating a toxic locker room environment, because I wouldn't want to play in a place that is just going to give, like, look at trading me. I'm one of the best players on the planet, and now you want to get rid of me? All right, well, then I ain't going to be caring if we win or lose this season. Now, that's not who Kevin Durant is, so I think he's going to play for sure, and, like, he's still going to ball out. But I mean, in this offseason, I wouldn't be surprised if he's like, all right, get me out of here. I'm not playing for y'all. Something like that. So, yes, you got in return Cody Martin, Micic, a 2025 first-round pick, a 2027 first-round pick, 2029 first-round pick, and a 2026 second-round pick in exchange for Jusuf Nurkic, 2026 first-round pick, 2031 first-round pick. But you made disgruntled stars in your locker room. That is the issue here. So F for the Phoenix Suns during the trade deadline. Trailblazers did not make a move. F. They should have made a move. You had Jeremy Grant sitting there, Anthony Simons sitting there, Robert Williams, DeAndre Ayton. There were players on this roster similar to the Brooklyn Nets. You should have made deals. You should have gotten rid of players, but you chose to just sit there quietly. Why hold on to a guy when you have three centers? Robert Williams could have been dealt, and DeAndre Ayton, so you could focus on Donovan Clingan, the guy you drafted 7th overall. It's just concerning. And Anthony Simons he was tied to so many teams and so many rumors, and no deal could have been made. You could have sent him to Orlando, which desperately could use him, but you chose to do nothing. Next up here, the Sacramento Kings. Incoming, Zach LaVine, Jonas Valanciunas, Jake LaRavia, 2025 first-round pick, top 14 protected, 2027 first-round pick, 2031 first-round pick, 2025 second-round pick, 2028 second-round pick. Outgoing De'Aaron Fox, Kevin Huerter, Jordan McLaughlin, Alex Len, Colby Jones, 2028 second-round pick. Another 2028 second-round pick of their own, and a 2029 second-round pick. This one, I mean, D-, D+, D+. I'll give him a D+. I'm not a huge fan of this deal. It feels like you gave up quite a lot. You gave up De'Aaron Fox, who He's a top 10 point guard in the NBA. You gave up Kevin Huerter, who isn't having a great season, so, you gave up Alex Len, some center depth. And yes, you got in return Zach LaVine, Jonas Valanciunas, Jake LaRavia. Now, the issue I have here, the issue I have here is you could have gotten an Atlanta Hawks first round pick from the Spurs. Instead, you got a top 14 protected from Charlotte, so that's going to convey to 2 second round picks. So you didn't get 3 first round picks in this deal. 2027, San Antonio is going to be phenomenal because they have Victor Wembanyama, so that pick's going to suck. 2031 pick via Minnesota is what you're banking on. But the issue I have with this entire deal is you don't have a point guard. You don't have a point guard and you don't have a defense. Sabonis is not a great defender. Jonas Valanciunas, not a great defender. Zach LaVine, not a great defender. DeMar DeRozan, not a good defender. Malik Monk, not a good defender. Keegan Murray he's a positive defender, but you have to have defenders in this league. Like, I feel like they just took a huge step back as an organization and as a roster because you gave up De'Aaron Fox for 0 defense. And then you brought in Jonas Valanciunas for what? Center depth? So he can stretch the floor? I just don't like that at all. Like, who's your point guard on this roster? Malik Monk? Malik Monk's not a point guard. He's Jordan Clarkson, Lou Williams. He's a great player, don't get me wrong, but he's not he's not the point guard. He's not a... Now, I do like the fact they got Jake LaRavia. I think that's actually a pretty solid, serviceable. He's a Kevin Huerter replacement, and he can fill in that role, I think, quite well. And you've got to bank on the fact that Minnesota is going to be bad in 2031. That gives you 6 years from now that Minnesota can hopefully get rid of Randall, DiVincenzo, and Anthony Edwards. Guys like that, right? That is a huge thing I think that the Sacramento Kings have to bank on. Because 2031, you're going to suck as well. Zach LaVine's going to be out of the league. DeMar DeRozan's going to be out of the league. Sabonis probably pretty close to out of the league. Valanciunas is going to be out of the league. Malik Monk's going to be pretty close. Like 2031, you're not going to be good. And you couldn't get one of the Atlanta Hawks picks. That just baffles me. So next up here, we have the San Antonio Spurs A+ deal. De'Aaron Fox, Jordan McLaughlin, Patrick Baldwin Jr. is what they get. Outgoing, Zach Collins, Trey Jones, Sidi Sissoko, 2025 first round pick via Charlotte, converts to second round picks if not conveyed. 2027 first round pick via San Antonio, and a 2031 via Minnesota. This A+ deal, they get De'Aaron Fox. They don't give up those Hawks picks. That's huge. Meaning the Hawks, if they're bad, they're going to have good picks still. So you're pairing Victor Wembanyama with a lottery pick and De'Aaron Fox. That's like... San Antonio saw that they had a hole at the point guard spot long term. They saw Chris Paul is not going to be able to be a serviceable point guard long term. Stephon Castle is feeling more like a shooting guard than he is a point guard. So you say, hey, let's go get our guy. Let's go get another star to pair alongside Victor so for the next 10 years they can both ball together. That's what just happened. It's like the Luka deal. Luka went over, and they got something in return, Anthony Davis and Max Christie, which is cool. Just like you got Zach LaVine, which is cool. You got Jonas Valanciunas, which is cool. But long-term success is going to be sitting over in San Antonio. It's going to be sitting over in LA. That's what I'm getting at. So A+ deal for the Spurs. We're getting down to the wire at the end here. Toronto Raptors. Brandon Ingram, PJ Tucker, James Wiseman, second round pick. Outgoing, Bruce Brown, Kelly Olynyk, Davion Mitchell, 2026 first round pick, top 4 protected, and a 2025 second round pick. A+, Brandon Ingram for Bruce Brown, Kelly Olynyk, and a first. I like that. I think you didn't give up too much. Yes, you sent out Davion Mitchell, which whatever. But you got Brandon Ingram. So now you have Quickly, RJ Barrett, Brandon Ingram, Scotty Barnes, Jakob Poeltl. Like, you're building something over there in Toronto. Is it a great roster? No. But it's a young, growing roster. That's what's good. Brandon Ingram really gets to showcase whether he's a 1A talent. I don't necessarily think that he's a 1A per se, but that's why you also have Scotty Barnes right there, and RJ Barrett right there, and Emmanuel Quickly right there. Like, all these players are going to play probably very well together. They're going to be able to push the tempo, right? They're all relatively young, so they can grow together and stay together. And Toronto can still make moves. If RJ Barrett doesn't fit this 4 right here, then cool, you can move on. Or Quickly doesn't fit, cool, you can move on. Scotty Barnes isn't fitting, like, he's your cornerstone, but there's always opportunity to make better moves, to get better. And they're young. I like that. So I'm going to say A- deal for them. Or A+, one of the two. Utah. Incoming. Now buckle up because this is a lot. KJ Martin, Josh Richardson, Mo Bamba, Jalen Hood-Schifino, Dennis Schroeder, 2028 second round pick, 2031 first round pick, 2025 second round pick, 2025 second round pick, 2030 second round pick. Outgoing. Drew Eubanks, Patty Mills, 2025 first round pick, 2027 first round pick, 2029 first round pick. Now, I like this because, one, you were part of that Lakers deal. You didn't have to give up anything. You just got Jalen Hood-Schifino, which realistically hasn't had an opportunity in LA. You've been proven to resurgence guys' careers. So by doing that, you go and you get by doing that, by going and getting a guy like Jalen Hood-Schifino, you've proven that you can do that in the past. John Collins' career's resurgenced a little bit. Lauri Markkanen has gone crazy, right? Colin Sexton has resurgenced his career. That was the one thing I thought they could have gotten rid of, was Colin Sexton. Jordan Clarkson, I think, was a little expendable as well. But I don't hate this deal for them. I think it's a solid B+. Because also you got that 2031 first round pick from Phoenix in exchange for, 3 first round picks, but they're all least favorable from Utah, Cleveland, Minnesota. So I don't mind that deal. Swapping out 3 bad first round picks for 1 really good one, pretty solid in my opinion. All right, last but not least, we have the Washington Wizards. The Washington Wizards, they get Chris Middleton, Marcus Smart, AJ Johnson, Sidy Cissoko, Colby Jones, Alex Len, Reggie Jackson, a 2025 first round pick, 2026 first round pick, a 2028 first round pick swap, 2028 second round pick, 2029 second round pick, 2030 second round pick. Now, Reggie Jackson was waived, so keep that in mind. Outgoing, what they gave up: Kyle Kuzma, Jonas Valanciunas, Patrick Baldwin Jr., Jared Butler, Johnny Davis, Marvin Bagley III. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 second round picks. So overall, I think it's a solid B+ grade. I think you had to go and get rid of your contracts, and Kyle Kuzma, especially what he said about, I don't care about the young guys, I'm here to get mine. You had to get rid of Jonas Valanciunas' contract too. Patrick Baldwin Jr., Jared Butler, Johnny Davis was terrible. Marvin Bagley III, he is not working out in the NBA. And a bunch of second round picks in return. Yeah, I like Chris Middleton with these young guys. Alex Sarr can learn a thing or two from him. Bilal Coulibaly can learn a thing or two from him. You go get Marcus Smart, who could teach these young guys as well. Like I said with the Bucks, AJ Johnson is a sneaky acquisition. He could be really solid for them. You have some center depth in Alex Len. Reggie Jackson, like I said, was just waived. And you get a couple first-round picks. So overall, I think that's a pretty solid deal. My biggest winners of this trade deadline, of course, is the Lakers, like I talked about before. Biggest losers being guys that didn't make moves, the Nuggets, the Nets, etc. So if you guys do enjoy this content, do me a huge favor, smash the like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel, comment down below on what you think about all these grades and everything. What do you agree with? What do you disagree with? Let's have a conversation in the comments. Also, one last thing before I let y'all go. I am doing a rebrand soon. Soon, I will not be Heart Over Height. I'm not going to say what I'll be, but stay tuned. Check out that in the near future, Hart over height will be changing to something else. So it's big news. I think you guys are going to love it. Let me know once that change does happen. Let me know what you guys think. So without further ado, it's been another Hart over height episode, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.